welcome to my sewing universe. This is my Joey Sewy channel, and I am going to tell you about part 2 of what I have now decided is a 3-part series on how I sewed a leather bag. So I'm calling it a learn along because it's very much a learning process. I had no idea how to do any of this before I started. I've never sewn with leather, and I'd never made a bag anywhere near this complex before. So all of what you're seeing is completely a discovery process. So in the last video, part 1, if you haven't watched that and you want to see the full process, then go back and watch part 1. There'll be a link down below, and also it's the most recent video on my channel. So in part 1 I did the cutting out, I did most of the sewing of the body of the leather bag, and so in part 2, and in part 1 I also discussed leather needles. So in part 2 we are finishing the base of the bag, doing all of the lining, including a hidden pocket in the side of the lining, and we're inserting the zip into the main body of the bag, and we're going to talk a little bit about hardware towards the end. And then in part 3 we will see the finished bag, and I'm going to give you my top tips of all the things I have learned during this process. So I hope you're enjoying sticking with me. It is a longer video than normal, but that's because I'm showing you the whole process. I'm showing you pretty much warts and all, and there were some warty bits definitely. So let's get on and watch history me, past me, do her thing. So I've clipped all the way around the base to the side of my bag. There's the pocket lining. And I've got a lot of excess on this side, so I'm just trying to work out what to do about that. I could just overlap it, but if I just overlap it, I haven't done that on this side, and I'll end up with an uneven bag. Not really what I want. So I could undo this side and overlap this side a bit more so that this side is not overlapped as much. Whatever I do with overlapping at this end, because the top part of these seams is ultimately, you can't see in this angle, it's not very clear, but this is ultimately where the strap of my bag is going to attach. So I don't want to overlap all the way to the top, because then my strap won't have anything to attach to. I would lose all of that. Or I could cut another base which was slightly bigger. What is the best choice? There will be a short interlude where I think about what the best choice out of those options is. So, well, that was worth it. It was worth going back and redoing the side seams, because look how well it matches now. It matches perfectly. I'm feeling rather smug about that. Finally, in this process, I've got something really good. So you can't see my thumbs up. I'm doing a thumbs up, but the camera's all upside down, so I'm confused. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to sew around there now. As you can see, I'm sewing on the inside because I don't want this particular seam to be exposed. So we'll see how well that works back when I've done it. Here we are. I have sewn in the base and I am so pleased with that. Not a single pucker, which on leather I'm not even sure that would have gone through my machine. But yeah, sewn in the base. And now I think we can talk hardware. I've not really made many bags before, so I'm not a total professional on hardware, but I used this website called, I'll show you it. Don't know whether that's going to be the right way up or whatever, but it's Bobbin Girl. UK website. There are quite a few. And what I got for myself was I got some bag feet, and I'm about to attach those. They attach with these little things. So you basically, can you see how, so that splits in two. See if we can split it. You shove it through, make a tiny hole, push it through, and then you split it so it will go like that. After, you only split it after you have slid that thing over the top, and that makes it really strong. And then the bag feet will stop the base of the leather wearing out. So I bought myself enough to do 2 bags because I do have plans to make a second bag. And then I bought these, which are rectangular rings. I think they are, let me measure them, I think they're 1.5 inch. Yeah, and it looks like that measurement is the internal size there. So that's 1.5 inches because I wanted quite a good, strong, chunky strap. I prefer chunky straps. And then I also bought some bag rivets, and I can't remember where I was going to use these. There you go. We have got one end, which has got a stalk on it, if you like, probably a technical term for it, and then that end has got the hole on it. And you put it through the leather at points of stress, basically, and you join them. You can also use them decoratively, so I think I'm going to use those definitely where I join the handle. So now I'm going to apply the bag feet. Okay, I'm going to show you how I'm putting these bag feet in. I've got one more to do. I've done 1, 2, 3 of them. So first of all, I have measured and marked. I got one wrong, so I've got a nice bit of green Sharpie on the bottom of my bag, which is good. Or not. And so I've measured, so I know where to make the hole. Now I'm making this with my scalpel. It's probably not the safest way to do it, but you do need to push something through the leather. So my fingers are not underneath that, okay? First of all, my fingers are not underneath that. Second of all, I'm pressing very lightly, and I want to make the smallest hole possible. The last one I didn't even go through. So you're not going to be able to see that hole. But it's a tiny little hole, and now I'm going to put that against there. Yeah, I don't think I've even gone all the way through, but that's okay because it is much better to make a tiny hole and then force it open with the bag foot than it is to make a hole that is far too big, okay? So I have pushed that through. Then let's turn it upside down and have a look at the inside. So there you go. That's the inside. So there is absolutely no excess in that hole, and that's really important. I mean, if it does go a little bit too big, it's not the end of the world. So now I've got some little pliers. These are jewellery making pliers that I happen to have. And I'm going to partially split the legs of the bag foot. Then I'm going to get one of the little metal discs that go in the back. There you go. So that's why I had to partially open it, because it's got 2 holes. So then I slide it over there. I push it down. The annoying thing is, because it's got 2 holes, it's really hard to push it to the base. I'm not entirely sure why it has to have 2 holes. It seems to me it would be easier if it only had 1. But there you go. It's got 2. And then I'm going to flatten, because of this thing that it's got 2 holes, I'm making sure it's right down there. Then I'm going to flatten one, which actually I can do much easier with my fingers. And then making sure that the metal disc here is pushed down as far as possible to the bag foot. So I'm feeling underneath with this finger. And then I push that in, and making sure they're pushed together is what makes it a snug fit. And then let's turn it over. And there is the bag foot, and it's nice and snug. There's no wobbling, no gaps. One bag foot and one bit of Sharpie that shouldn't be there. Right, I'll try and get that with nail varnish remover at the end if I'm bothered. So now I've got 4 bag foot feet on my bag. I've started working on the lining. This is my lining fabric, because I like to have something a bit bonkers where it's a bit secret. Now it's quilting cotton, which means that it's pretty drapey, and I tried it, just sort of held it in the bag, and I felt it was too drapey. It wasn't going to be very structured. It wouldn't be great to use. So I've got some of this stuff, and it's fusible fleece. You can easy to find on eBay. It's made by Heat and Bond Fusibles iron-on fusible interfacing and fusible fleece. So it's fusible fleece, and it is what it says on the tin. It feels like fleece. It's stiff. It's for adding structure to bags, home furnishings. I don't really think you would use it in clothing, although it is machine washable. When it's fused, the sort of the drapey quilting cotton turns into much stiffer, still flexible, still easy to use, but not as collapsible. Look at that. International sign for collapsible. So that's what I'm doing. I've cut exactly the same pattern pieces out. So that's what I'm doing now. Next step, I want to put a pocket inside my bag. So this is the lining, the inside of the bag on the side. And I want to do a welt zipper pocket, which is a welt is basically where, like I did in the leather, so the zipper will be in view. So what you do, I'm following a tutorial and I'll put a link to it. What you do is you get some fabric to make the pocket out of. I didn't want to make it the same as the lining because this is so busy, it would be hard to distinguish. You find a zipper, so I've got a zip, depends where you live. Nice blue colour, which was from my stash, and I have cut it to the length I want it to be, because you can cut the ends of zippers because the end of the zip will be secured as long as you don't open it all the way and lose the tab off the end while you're working. I have done that before. Then your pocket lining, I'm using denim. This side is my right side and the black side is my wrong side. Okay, so on the wrong side I've cut this rectangle about 2 inches longer than the pocket I want. This just happened to be the rectangle, so to be honest I probably want it to be slightly longer, the pocket, but I will live with this. An inch down from the top you draw a letterbox shaped opening, just slightly longer than your zip, exactly the size that you want the opening to be, and you pin it right side to right side, so right side to right side, onto whatever surface you're doing the pocket on. So you can use this technique on anything, on a bag, on trousers, on all sorts of things. So now I'm going to go and literally just sew a line of stitching all the way around that rectangle, around all 4 sides of that rectangle. That probably doesn't look all that different to you, but there is now a line of stitching around those white chalk lines, and I'm going to cut now. I'll draw it for you. I'm going to cut a straight line in there, but what's important is I don't go right to the ends. I then need to make a little Y shape there, whoops, and there. You don't have to draw that on, I just drew it on to show you. I'm going to fold it in half in the middle. I'm cutting through all layers. Okay. Snip to the corner, careful not to go into the stitching. Don't be tempted to do this with a seam ripper or anything that it's likely or possible that you'll slip with, because there's not really any way to retrieve it if you cut past the stitching line. You'd be into the realms of gluing and hoping, to be honest. So there you go. We have an opening, and now we're going to turn it inside out. So I'm going to push all of this through there. You have to fiddle around with it a bit. Okay, so that's it's turned inside out. It needs a press, and when you press it, you'll get a really nice opening there. There, now it's pressed. Look how good that looks, even if I say so myself. So now I'm going to place the zip underneath there. I'm going to pin it in place, pin that all the way around, and then I'm going to sew around that with a zipper foot. Hello, back, day 2, different hair, different clothes. Same me, less grumpy. So where did I get to yesterday? Where I got to yesterday was we've got the outside of the leather bag, like so. Got the underside stitched on and the bag feet. Quite happy with that. And then I got quite a long way with the lining, which is really hard to show because of course it's inside out. So in the lining we've got, you can't see that at all, can you? Whoa, in the lining we've got a zipped pocket, there you can sort of see that, and also I've put a patch pocket, there you go, a patch pocket on either side. So inside the bag, the zip pocket goes on one of the sides, and then the patch pocket, there's one here and there will be one there. So today's job, if I have time to do it because I've got other stuff to do today, today's job is I've got to sew this base. Ooh, there you go, there's the base of the lining. I've got to sew that on, and then I have to get the lining in the bag, and then the next step from that would either be, here we go, either putting the zip in the top and or attaching the handle straps. And then there's the strap, and then it would be finished. So I'm going to be pinning in the base of the lining first. Fully pinned in. Now I'm going to stitch all the way around there. The base is sewn in. So I've neatened the edges with the serger. Now I've got to insert the lining into the bag. There is the inside of the bag. And now, just literally put this inside. Lining's in there. Let's close that zip. The question then becomes how to fix the lining and the bag together. A couple of options. Most of all, basically what I'm considering when I'm thinking about this is the fact that the leather's so thick to sew through. If you were doing this with something, a fabric of some kind, almost any other fabric would not be as thick as leather. So I want to try and avoid having multiple layers of leather to sew through. Certainly along long stretches. I managed here, the seam, there were 3 layers of leather to go through, and the machine did that okay. So I could do a line of top stitching down from the edge. That would sew it in place, and the top stitching, if I just did that, would have a neat edge inside. All the other options involve putting something, imagine this was leather, putting something like that that then folds over and becomes the lid for the bag. I might look into that option, even though that would either need to be leather or I'd need to make a different design choice. And this section that becomes the top has got to have the zip in it. Right, I'm going to go away and do some more thinking because it may take a while and it won't make particularly interesting viewing. I've done some thinking and I've decided I'm going to try to do it anyway. Clipped everything along. I've got seams down here with my lining, and I've had to open both sides, just open them a little bit because the lining was slightly smaller than the bag, but that's fine. So what I have decided is that I'm going to try the neater finish but potentially the harder one to achieve, which is to sew the leather this way around and then flip it all to the inside, just as you would if you were using fabric. And then on my practice bag, let me show you, I sewed them together, just sandwiched them together with the raw edges here showing. And that works okay, but it's actually not really any more, it's nothing more to get through the machine, and you end up with raw edges showing, which I'm not really sure is the look I want for the bag. And if I do that, I'll have to attach the lining in a different way because the lining would show down in the crease of this seam unless I had another line of stitching. And the stitching's not going brilliantly, so I want to minimise that. The next step for me is to actually get the zip into the leather. So that's what I've got here. Got 2 bits of leather which are going to go on the top of my bag, odd angle, and I've got a zip which is identical to the one I had before, and I'm in the practice bag, and I'm going to sew it like that. I'm not going to sew the ends, these are going to stay open, and here there will be raw edges of the leather showing because I don't want the bulk next to the zip of trying to fold that over. Okay, so I have got the zip sewn in. I did 2 lines of stitching, one on top of the other, rather than using the triple stitch which I had trouble with earlier. I've done 2 lines, so it's very strong and neat this time, getting better. And then I have clipped together the lining, the main bag, and the, what we'll call this, the lid, the zip section, along one side. I'm going to sew that, and then I'm going to flip it over. It'll be a bit more difficult. I'm going to clip the other side. So I have sewn through my 2 layers of leather and my 1 layer of lining. I did it a couple of times. I did it first of all with just a straight single stitch, and then I turned it out and some of the stitches had skipped, and so the seam wasn't very strong, so I went back and I did a triple stitch, and now I've got a good seam along the whole of there, which I am pleased with. Things I'm learning about how to get the leather through the machine. Basically, it doesn't like if it gets caught, and these little clips, they are the thing that you need for the job, but this metal bit gets stuck on ridges on your machine as it runs through, and it can pull the leather. So if it's not feeding smoothly, my machine gets upset. And in some ways it prefers going a little bit faster, not at full speed, but if I go super slow it seems to kind of lose its rhythm. It needs the force of going a little bit faster, but only medium fast. I would not be going full speed with this. So now I've got a pin to the other side, so I've undone the zip so that I can turn this way out. This is going to be the trickiest part of all. And so I've got a centre mark here, so I can line that up and get my first clip in. Half of sewing is learning about how the particular material you're using at any one time works. I've been making jeans recently, which I'll hopefully make a video on, and the actual sewing part of that is no different to any other sewing I've ever done, but it's dealing with the material and some of the design details that make jeans as opposed to just trousers. But yeah, it's been interesting. I don't know how I'd do this if I was going to try and sew all the way to the end, which is partly why I designed the bag the way I did, because I don't have to sew right to the end. I'm going to try and do that differently. Something else about leather is that it varies in thickness. I mean, this is not super high quality leather, and maybe if you get higher quality leather, the thickness is a bit more uniform. It's probably not as thick as this either, although, you know, things vary on design choices and stuff. But yeah, it varies, and you can feel that as it goes through the machine. You can feel the variation in thickness. So I've got that clipped in, and then I'll sew it, and when I turn that out, let's just test it all works. Yes, it does. Woohoo! We're getting close to the finishing straight. So, to the machine we go again. I brought you to the machine with me this time. I'm not sure how much you're going to see because the bag's going to be in the way, but we'll see. And you can see the sort of speed I'm talking about, and this issue about getting the clips through the machine. So this bit here is what keeps getting stuck as it runs over and up onto my machine. So I'm having to lift it up a little bit, which is why I'm slightly worried you won't be able to see anything. But anyway, we'll see. I've had it on 4 or 4.5 stitch length, and I'm going to sew it as a single straight stitch first. Backwards. So remember, this is a leather needle. You really need a leather needle. Don't care what other steps you skip, you must use a leather needle, because I really don't know what you'd get if you get all sorts of skipped stitches. Nearly at the end. That's okay, it's still skipped a couple of stitches. I'm going to run that through again. That's the sound of my machine getting jammed. I don't know why on that particular stitch. Yeah, that looks okay. Let's go back to the table. Zip that up like that. Nearly there. So the main thing to do now is we've got to resolve the ends of that there and here and attach the handles. My camera battery's about to run out again, but we've got a lining and we've got a bag. You can see the raw leather and the raw edges in there, which is a bit of a shame, but I'll live. This is my pattern piece for the handle, and basically it's going to go over the top of that like that at either end, and then the handle will attach, and there's some bag hardware. There's a rectangular ring that will go through there. So I'm just going to have a little look and think about that and clip it in place, or work out how to fasten it in place, and I'll come back to you. Here we are, we've got an inside out bag. I'll turn it inside out so I can have a look at this section here. This is my handle holding piece, so it's the bit that's going to come up the top, off the top of the bag, and the strap will attach through there. So there's a double bit of leather there. There's one layer of leather here. There's another layer here with a bit that's overlapped in the centre. I want this to end up on the outside, so I need it to go inside the bag at this stage. But if I just sew that through there, which is what I would do if this were fabric, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and in the centre 5 layers of leather. I really cannot see my machine being happy with that choice. So I'm thinking that I sew this half of the handle holder. Okay, so you've got the bag top, and that is the inside piece. Here's the other one. So that's one half of that to here, and then I sew the other half there, so that maximum I've got 3 layers of leather here, but only for that really short stretch. And then I turn it the other way out, and then when it's the other way out, I'm hoping there'll be a seam there, and I'll be able to get a line of stitching there to enclose it and attach them together. So that is my plan, because I don't think I should even dream about being able to sew 5 layers of leather together. I think that would just be madness. So important to remember at this stage, because I'm starting to attach this rectangular ring. I need that on, otherwise I'll sew it on and I won't be able, there's no other way of getting the rectangular ring on the bag afterwards. Okay, so you just need to have that on at this stage. So that's what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to try and sew to here and to here, and then when it's turned the other side out, I'm going to try and sew a line of stitching across the handle piece to catch it. So let's see how that works out. And that is where we leave it, guys. Not quite finished, but very nearly finished. And in the next video, I will show you the finishing process, the last few bits of hardware that I put on, and I will share with you my top, I don't know, maybe top five things that I learned about making leather bags and working with leather. So I hope you'll stick with me for part 3 in this series, and I'll see you very soon. Thanks, bye!